Thank you very much.
Jay starts.
Who's starting?
Thank you so much for coming here and
Let me just get off the stage.
very warm welcome to all of you in this press conference where here we are going to talk about the real solutions for climate change. And the need for this title, we thought that there is so much conversation on the false solutions that false solutions are sort of crowding out and pushing off the real, genuine, people-led, gender-just solutions. This press conference is being organized by a number of organizations, including Asia Pacific Forum on Women, Law and Development, Center for Community Economics, Corporate Accountability, ESCR Net, Global Forest Coalition, Public Advocacy Initiatives for Rights and Values in India, IBON Foundation, Indigenous Environmental Network, INESC, and Latindad. So a very warm welcome to all of you again. Let me introduce the panelists. Towards my extreme left is Mr. Soparno from Global Forest Coalition. Towards his right is Vanun Perumbul from Climate Watch Thailand. And towards my left is Caroline Muturi Soni from Kenya from IBON International. I'm Ajay Kumar Jha. I work with Center for Community Economics, and I also work with Asia Pacific Regional CSOs Engagement Mechanism. So our focus in this press conference will be to talk about locally led solutions. But there is just one rider. I would like my fellow speakers also to take into account that by putting a lot of focus on locally led solutions, what we tend to do is to sort of reduce a problem, climate crisis, which is a global and systemic, to a problem which is local and individual. And that allows all perpetrators of climate injustice to go scot-free. So let's not do that. I'll just take a couple of minutes to put the things in the context. If we look at globally, what is the real solution? In this COP, this is billed as Finance COP. So the first real solution, I would say, is the debt cancellation. More than 58% of the LDCs are paying 4 times debt service as they were doing a decade ago. And LDCs are paying 5 times more in debt service as they are doing in enhancing climate resilience in their own countries. And if you look at SIDS are paying 13 times more in debt service than they can invest nationally in climate resilient activities and climate actions. So without a debt cancellation, no resolution of the crisis is possible. Let's look at the ODA gaps. If all the donor countries can achieve 0.7%, we will have 200 billion more for climate finance. If we can tax high net worth individuals, it will bring $2 trillion every year. Spain is already doing that. Germany did that long time back in 1952. US, Netherlands, France, everyone is considering this. Let's also look at what could be a real solution: transport emissions. European Union's transport emission constitute 25% of the total global transport emissions, and we need them to reduce this now. As far as another real solution is corporate taxes. 5,000 SEZs all over 130 countries. They are almost a tax-free zone. Nobody pays anything. Last but not the least is direct access for communities to finance. And you'll be surprised to know that farmers as a community receive less than 0.03% of the climate finance directly. Indigenous peoples also receive something like 0.03%. And even after the 2021 Glasgow Forest Pledge, which pledged to invest 1.7 billion directly with the indigenous populations, they haven't received more than 7% of that. So these are the real solutions that we are looking forward to. And now I will invite my colleague Caroline. Caroline, you have 5 minutes.
Thank you so much. I am Caroline Muturi from Ibon Africa. I am the coordinator based in Nairobi, Kenya. Thank you so much for joining us today. I would like to begin by sharing how Africa is currently inundated by carbon markets projects, and this negatively affects communities and how local communities operate, as well as indigenous peoples. In Kenya, we have the Ogiek community from the Mau complex and also Maasai community from Tanzania. And these communities are evicted in the guise of conservation of forest, while at the same time the government is getting into deals with corporations to take over management of Africa's natural resources. And aside from the obvious negative impacts on the rights of peoples and communities, the promotion of forest solutions creates barriers to the recognition and wider adoption of real solutions. To overcome these barriers, it is essential to actively amplify and put more emphasis on the solutions developed and owned by communities themselves. We are talking about real solutions, and they need to be amplified. So this requires supporting grassroots initiatives, creating platforms, and scaling these practices, as well as educating policymakers, the media, public, about the limitations of carbon markets. And by shifting the focus towards these approaches, we can counter false narratives and promote solutions that genuinely address the climate crisis. And we need to move away from false solutions such as REDD+ projects towards real solutions such as agroecological farming, securing land rights and tenure of smallholder farmers, as well as indigenous people, to counter the corporatization of our food systems and commodifications of natural resources, and of course to ensure ecological balance and realize the rights of the people and nature. But of course we have challenges. Agroecological farmers face constant pressure from a world system that is set to favor supermarkets and agro-businesses. And governments must now act to stop profit-driven agribusiness encroaching on the lives and livelihoods of land workers all around the world, and to take decisive action to support a just transition to agroecology. So real solutions do exist in all continents, and especially in Africa, and it is time to celebrate and amplify them. For example, in Kenya, we have a group of vibrant women called Kinyagia Women Group. It is in Meru County. And this women is composed of elderly women who have organized themselves into an active environmental and cultural group. And through these organizations, women are able to engage in agricultural production in their communities, and especially agroecology practices. And as much as they face discrimination in accessing agricultural extension services, and of course land titles as women, women's socioeconomic status in Meru, and like in many other African communities across the country, are subject to marital status. And so if you are not married, you cannot access land, you cannot access resources and title deeds and all that. So their control over land, which is basic means of agricultural production, is based on their obligations either as wives or as mothers. But despite these barriers, this group, Kinyagia Women Group in Meru County in Kenya, is well known for its efforts and initiatives on environmental conservation. And these groups engages in agroecology, reforestation, and conservation practices, and also cultural performances to raise people's awareness on these topics. So what unites women in Meru is the ever-present hope of liberation through organizing and educating themselves and resisting existing patriarchal and just economic systems to push for people-centered climate actions. As the impacts of climate change intensify, it is imperative for us to refocus the conversation on real solutions that do empower communities and prioritize justice and sustainability. Africa's communities are already demonstrating what effective, sustainable climate action looks like, and they have been practicing these practices ever since. So we are looking into now more than ever, we must support these efforts and we must resist false promises of carbon markets and ensure that climate action is really, truly just and transformative. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Caroline, for highlighting the adverse impact of market-based initiatives and also highlighting that how agroecology can be a route to communities' resilience. Thank you so much for that. Now I'll go to Wanun from Climate Watch Thailand.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much all for being here. My name is Wanan Permtubun from Climate Watch Thailand, a member of Asia Pacific Forum on Women, Law and Development. As we gather here in Bagu, the negotiations are moving too slowly, while communities across the global south are already experiencing the consequences of climate impacts they did not cause. Governments here are discussing about the timelines, the targets, and also the commitments. But the reality is that real solutions are already happening outside these negotiation rooms. The communities most affected by climate change are not waiting for the outcome to happen. They are acting now, with or without the support. Governments must not delay any longer. Across farming and fishing communities, the impacts of climate change are so clear. Higher temperatures, long duration of droughts, rainfalls, and also storms are destroying livelihoods, pushing families into poverty, driving them deeper into debt. This is not just climate change, it is climate injustice. Communities that have contributed to the least of the global emissions are bearing the brunt of this crisis. They are owed climate reparations, not charity. Let us be clear, the global north has accumulated a climate debt that must be repaid. This is not about aid or assistance. It is about historical responsibilities for the centuries of extraction and exploitation that have fueled this crisis. Meanwhile, the negotiations here in Bagu are filled with empty promises, while communities are taking real actions on the ground. And yet, while we are hearing endless discussions about carbon markets, let's not forget that over 1,700 fossil fuel lobbyists and agribusiness representatives are here in Bagu, lobbying governments to protect their profits. These lobbyists are here to ensure that the status quo, which prioritizes profit over people, continues. This is unacceptable. We need system change, a radical and transformative restructuring that moves us away from the grip of corporations towards genuine community-led solutions. The transition must be rooted in justice, equity, and self-determination. The inequalities that underpin our global system are not side issues. They are central to the climate crisis. We cannot talk about climate action without addressing the deep inequalities that has been exacerbated by colonialism, capitalism, and corporate greed. While negotiators are debating now, grassroots communities are already implementing the real solutions. Let me give you some examples. Coastal communities are storing coastal ecosystem with bamboo lines and traditional knowledge to fight coastal erosion due to sea level rise and strong waves and tides. They have constructed bamboo lines that have successfully reclaimed over 600 meters of lost mangrove areas. This has brought marine life back, securing food for their families, while corporations push nature-based solutions that greenwash their activities. Communities are implementing genuine community-driven efforts. Many women farmers are using traditional rice seeds for food sovereignty. They grow traditional rice variety that are rich in nutrients and sustain their family in a market that pushes quick-yield hybrid seeds that degrade soil and reduce nutritional value. They have chosen resilience over profit. This is a just and equitable transition. There are some women as well who are also saving seeds each season, making them independent from the exploitative seeds markets dominated by corporations. Their actions are a clear rejection of false solutions like climate-smart agriculture that only serve corporate profits. There are community-based renewable energy projects that signify the true decentralization of the energy system. In several regions, communities are investing in solar panels to power their farms and dry fruits. This is real climate action, shifting away from fossil fuels and embracing decentralized energy system. However, these efforts are burdened by high upfront costs, which could be alleviated by proper access to climate finance. The Global North must stop hiding behind market mechanisms and start delivering real climate finance. The progress in these negotiation rooms is too slow, while communities are already forced to use their own limited resources to survive. Climate finance must be treated as climate reparations, a debt owed to those who have done the least to cause the crisis, but are paying the highest price. From those examples that I have already shared, the real solutions must be guided by the following. There must be rights-based, empowering communities to control their own resources. They should focus on self-reliance and resilience, supporting women, indigenous peoples, and marginalized groups who are already leading the way. They must address inequality, ensuring that the most affected have a voice in shaping their future. They require radical restructuring of our economic system that prioritize people and the planet over the corporate profits. The solutions we seek now are not in the boardrooms, nor in the hands of corporations who have caused this crisis. They are in the hands of the women and communities who are already leading the way with real climate actions. Governments here must recognize, fund, amplify these solutions, provide them with the finance they need to sustain and expand their impacts. Climate change is an issue of justice, reparations, and human rights. The time for delays, distractions, and false solutions is over. The real solutions are already here, led by those who have pushed to the margins yet continue to resist. Let us not forget, the Global North owes a climate debt to the Global South. It is time now for them to pay up for the climate finance. I thank you.
Thank you so much, Vanun. Thank you so much for highlighting how climate finance is not a charity. And COP29 is very clear in this. We see that climate crisis being treated as a business venture with the presence of lots of corporate lobbyists. So we would not allow this global opportunity to be wasted as a business venture. Thank you so much, Vanun. Now let me go to Mr. Soparno from Global Forest Coalition.
Thank you, Ajay. Even if we have to repeat and repeat again, it's better to repeat and remind us all. Number one, we need to reduce emission by half by 2030. For that, we need fossil fuel to phase out. We need to reduce the consumption of the global north. We need to reduce deforestation and biodiversity loss. And we need to call out the false solutions which are being peddled in these corridors, in the climate spaces, in COPs, and other UN spaces. Now, what you have just heard is actually clarifies that false solution is a huge barrier to real solutions. As long as the conversation and discourse, policy support, and finance goes to promote false solutions, real solutions will be drowned out. Real solutions will not be allowed to come out as a voice, as a concern for the communities who have been practicing those real solutions for centuries. And how? I give you two concrete examples from the ground. The moment the false solutions are promoted and financed and take shape on the ground, the impact is those communities are torn apart from their nature, from their forest, from their land. The impact is not only destruction of livelihood, but destruction of their homeland. They are violently separated from their homeland and territories which they have defended for centuries, which they have conserved and protected for centuries. This is what the false solutions do. And in these kind of climate spaces and corridors, when we come up, we hear every day, every minute, not only the negotiators, but all the discussions moving around carbon markets, discussions moving around restoration by plantations, discussions moving around deforestation through REDD+, which has failed. I haven't heard here officially they are talking about real solutions. The communities, the voices which really wants to have a space in these corridors to talk about real solutions do not get that space. They are being drowned out by the conversation and the force of the discourse on false solutions. We have to defend our space, we have to defend our ground. And that's why we are saying that let's talk about real solutions. More the merrier. We amplify, and this amplification and talking more on real solutions is a way of resisting false solutions. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Sauparno. All the speakers have very brilliantly elaborated what kind of real, genuine solutions we need for a quick resolution of this climate crisis. The bottom line is that unless we reorganize our economy based on the sufficiency of the natural resources and needs of the people, it will remain an economically driven by capitalist order, which is based on overproduction without factoring in the planetary boundaries. So thank you again so much for coming. We open the floor for a couple of questions. Thank you so much. Any questions? Maybe we can start from you, your last comment to finish. Okay, please go ahead.
Yes, not exactly the question, but just a comment. Thank you everyone for highlighting the real solutions and promoting the community-based solutions that have already been done. And yes, as you said, that the money is there, but it's going into the false solutions. And now it has to be divested towards the real solutions. And we, just to share the briefer that we have, it is a compilation of the real solutions that's already happening on the ground. And we have it here. So if anybody would like to have a look, then please, feel free to contact us. It's from APWLD, Asia Pacific Forum on Women, Law and Development. And we have it compiled here. We have few copies. If anybody would like to see. And we also have a QR code if you want to go to the, you want to go directly to the QR code. Yes.
Thank you so much, Ranjana. Anybody else? Any questions? Any further questions? If not, I'll go back to the panelists asking for their closing comments and remarks. Please limit yourself to 1 minute. Thank you so much.
Yes. If anyone has doubt, there are loads and loads of documentation on real solutions practiced by the communities all over the world. Many of us have done case studies and we know what is going on. So when we talk of real solutions, real climate actions, we also need to emphasize that it has to be gender just, it has to be rights-based, it has to have an ecosystem approach. It has to be driven and governed by the communities. That is what we call real climate action, real solutions on the ground. This is the only way that we can actually survive and perhaps repair a bit of the huge damage that the planet Earth has already undergone. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Saupanno. Vanun, yeah?
Thank you so much. I think when we talk about real solutions, it doesn't mean that communities have all the resources to do and implement and to practice the real solutions. They have tried it, they have tasted it, they are doing it because they need to do it, using their own resources or maybe getting the loans. This is not really fair to them because they are practicing the real solution that are the climate solutions that they are not cost. So we really, really need to amplify their voices, amplify those real solutions they have been implemented, and demand the climate finance. It's not only demand the climate finance in terms of the numbers or the scale of the finance, but the access to the finance. As I can see from the Green Climate Fund, money is already there in our countries, but the access to the finance from those on the ground and those at the climate forefront are still missing. We really, really need to open up that space. So we really, really need to have the direct access to those communities who are already implementing real solutions on the ground. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Vanun. Caroline?
Fund communities to do the regeneration and conservation. Communities have been doing it. They know how to do it. Fund communities directly. Thank you.
Thank you so much to all of you. The speakers have highlighted that communities have countless solutions, and they are doing it successfully. They have several dimensions. They are at intersections of resilience, solution to climate crisis, protection of biodiversity, economic viability of the communities, disaster risk reduction. So we have countless solutions, but let's be very aware of the fact that we don't put any further burden on the communities for mitigation and adaptation. And what we demand is climate finance appropriate, public grant-based finance to scale up these solutions. And yeah, last but not the least, that while we are committed to scale up these locally led community-based solutions, we also understand the global conversation is not helping us to do that. Global conversation is looking at climate crisis as a business venture and looking to resolve climate crisis by a further deepened debt crisis. We strongly resist that. Thank you so much, all of you, for coming.